The story behind it is that we were managing a property for a special servicer, and we had been given first right to buy it before they took it out to auction. And we had leases working with 3 major tenants. And so we were kind of talking about, should we go find equity for it? And so I was like, well, I'll just call groups and see if it makes sense. We had a financial package put together. At this point, I was doing none of it, and Steven was kind of the one going out to find capital. I just Google Oklahoma private equity. It's like, okay, they'll understand Norman. They know the college town. I ended up calling Braden, picked up, sent him over the deal. So yeah, we're interested. I didn't hear back from you on it. And then it goes to auction, and then you reach out back again for the deal. And you're like, you guys still going to go forward? It's like, well, we had another investor that was with us up to a certain point, but if they goes past it, we might be a player for working with you. Nothing really came from it. And then you guys were watching the ticking time on the auction. And what did it get up to?
I'll never forget. I was in an interview at 68th and Lewis in Tulsa, and
at apartments we owned.
Oh my gosh! And we were just watching it, and
I think we could have bought it for like $10 million, $8 million, and it went for like $16 million.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to How to Invest in Commercial Real Estate. Today we have Andrew Thelen with the Woodmont Company on. Super excited to have you on the show, bro. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Andy is the Vice President of Capital Markets for the Woodmont Company. So he
Assistant Vice President
of Capital Markets for the Woodmont Company. And he gets the fun job to go find all the debt and equity for all these deals, which I'm sure, hey, here's the deal, go find debt and equity. Is that pretty much how's it go? Or walk us through?
At times it feels like that. So I'm involved with the entire process from when we choose a site to running all the numbers for it, to figuring out, is it a viable option? Do we meet the return thresholds for us internally and for our external investors? From there, it's putting together the financial package, kind of how do we present it? What's the best way? How long's our hold time? Kind of what splits can we do to maximize our revenue and our partners' revenue? And then it's going out to banks, to equity partners, trying to figure out realistically how much debt can we put on this, in running that whole life cycle. And then what's interesting for me, since I do this...
Get a little closer to the mic, sorry.
Since I do this internally, instead of like a third party where once the transaction's done, I'm out of it, this one I actually get to work with the investor all the way through the life cycle of the project, from sending out updates to kind of if we've got offers, where do we go from there? If we have to change the strategy, working with the investors to make sure they're on board for it. So I don't have the traditional equity or debt broker role where as soon as the transaction's done, I'm gone. I get to work with it for the entire life cycle.
Yeah, you do, because we've worked with you on a few deals now, and we hear from you from day one, and then we're getting updates from you until the project's basically completed. So,
yeah.
Which from my perspective is the preferred way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather have one guy to go to, one girl to go to.
How many deals did you find equity for this last year?
This year so far, I've done 4 that have closed. I've got a fifth, 5 and 6 committed. And then I should be hearing, and I've got 2 lenders also committed. And then I've got probably about another 3 or 4 deals, which I should hopefully find out if will be committed this month.
That's not bad coming out of COVID. And is that a normal rate for you? Is that more? Is that less because of COVID or what?
This is more. I kind of got into the role 3 years ago, and I kind of got into it by mistake. I was never hired to actually do this job. I just kind of fell into my position, and I've loved it, so I've just kind of taken off with it.
Yeah, did you get an initial list of high net worth or maybe Woodmont investors that you go to? What was the beginning when they said, hey, we need you to raise some equity?
Well, I was never even told I need to raise equity. It was we were hiring.
Well, you were never even told you needed to raise equity. This was just somebody else's job, and you're just like, hey, I got some money.
Yeah, basically, we were working on a bunch of franchise concepts, and it was hard to get traditional equity to want to invest in franchise concepts because they're first-time operators, or it's not something they're comfortable with, or the check sizes were too small. So we had hired a couple of outside groups to go and raise capital, and we had done some fundraising online through Real Crowd. And I essentially told Steven, the chairman of the company, hey, I think I can do a better job than who you're paying to raise money. You mind if I give it a shot? And he's like, sure, go for it. Like, it doesn't really affect me that much. So after that, I just Googled, JV equity partners or real estate private equity. And I closed 2 deals with a private equity company out of Chicago.
How much money? How much private equity did you Google and get?
My first year, I did probably $5 million.
And that was Googled $5 million into your pocket.
Yeah, basically.
Well, not into his pocket, but into the deal.
Yeah. So it was just cold calling, and real estate's great because a lot of people are very susceptible to getting a cold call. They think that people aren't above them to listen to what you have to pitch, and if the numbers make sense and the company's track record makes sense, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, you did have Woodmont. That was probably a plus.
Yeah,
and
They
getting
get their name.
But man, I love the cold calling because it's something that I am not any good at.
Yeah,
It sucks.
Yeah,
It's a certain unique type of person that can be really good at cold calling, especially when they're asking for money.
Yeah.
And so I got to applaud you on that. That's really cool.
Is that how you found? How'd they find Precision?
Did you Google us?
Yeah. We had a shopping center that was in foreclosure that we were managing for.
That we should have bought. We definitely should have bought.
Yeah. For those that are
Who
listening,
said no on that, by the way?
For those that are
Who
listening,
said that we shouldn't have bought that deal?
well, yeah, Andy tried to bring us a deal that we didn't know for sure, but we found out later.
We know for sure now.
We know for sure now that it would have made us about $7 or $8 million in about
6 months.
6 months.
Less.
But the problem was we had just put a bunch of money into another deal. And
We don't want
didn't-
excuses. We don't want
Yeah, we
excuses.
don't want to hear excuses.
So
anyway,
this-
that's what he tried to bring me, and I didn't take advantage.
So yeah, the story behind it is that we were the specials. We were managing a property for a special servicer, and we had been given first right to buy it before they took it out to auction. And we had leases working with 3 major tenants, and so we were gonna kind of talking about should we go find equity for it. And so I was like, well, I'll just call groups and see if it makes sense. We had a financial package put together. At this point, I was doing none of it, and Stephen was kind of the one going out to find capital. I just Google Oklahoma private equity. It's like, okay, they'll understand Norman. They know the college town. I end up calling Braden, picked up, sent him over the deal. So yeah, we're interested. I didn't hear back from you on it. And then it goes to auction, and then you reach out back again for the deal, and you're like, you guys still like going to go forward? It's like, well, we had another investor that was with us up to a certain point, but if they goes past it, we might be a player for working with you. Nothing really came from it. And then you guys were watching the ticking time on the auction, and what did it get up to?
I'll never forget. I was in an interview at 68th and Lewis in Tulsa, and
Yeah, at apartments we owned.
oh my gosh, and we were just watching it, and
I think we could have bought it for like $10 million,
8.
$8 million, and it went for like $16 million.
it hurt. It was at the end of it. I mean, I was pissed.
Yeah, I
really
was
mad.
I was pretty upset too because what did we talk about earlier? The deal of the decade comes along once a week.
Yeah, but that was
And we just didn't grasp it when it came. So
And that was one we could have made happen. It was impeccably bad timing. You just closed a deal a few months prior off a big 1031, but we could have
we could have made it. We could have made it happen, and we didn't. So, but it's a cool story that you're finding equity by Googling and calling and pitching. I need to take lessons actually because I need to get better at raising equity.
And then we called you for a cons deal too.
Yeah, and
which
I was ready
which
to invest in that.
Yeah, and I forget what happened with that one, but that one ended up being a pass. So when we were getting ready to roll out the Kitty Academies, I was like, okay, I talked to Braden. They were interested in a cons deal. It's a triple net type of deal. Let me go ahead and call Braden and see if they'll be interested in the deal. And I remember you picked up and you're like, Andy, I don't care what you're pitching me. Whatever it is, I'm going to say yes because of what I missed out on.
Yeah,
I do remember that. I was like, I'm listening now. You've got my attention.
Yeah, we were gonna do that cons deal, but I think we were late to the game, or you guys were late to the game, so they decided to go another direction.
We didn't even keep it under contract. It went with another group because I don't think we could find the right equity for it. The issue is cons is just it's B- credit, and they were on the bankruptcy watch list.
Mm-hmm. Your story is interesting because I think a lot of people who are just breaking into this business think, well, okay, how am I going to raise for their project? I don't care how big or how small it is. How am I going to raise my equity? And what you've shown is you can pick up the phone, you can get on the internet, and it can be done. You're raising so much, so people who are watching this should just do the same thing, right? Just get on, Google some things.
And if your background
numbers and emails
isn't enough, right? You don't have the history. Then you're like we've talked about before. You partner with a company that does have some history, and then do the Googling and the raising.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if you want to get into a deal with me, and you say, "Hey, I've got a deal. I need to use your experience, but don't worry, I'll help you bring the equity."
Yeah.
We're a yes.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'm going to take some of that deal, but after you do one or two of them, you're not going to need me anymore because you're going to start developing your own track record.
Yeah.
And if you have a good deal, I mean, sponsors or investors can see if the numbers make sense or if you're just bullshitting and know if your costs are in line, if your returns make sense. And at that point, if you're pitching a real deal, people will sometimes take a chance on you, even if you don't have the notorious background because you at least show that it's a real deal and you're not overselling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're experts or they're a private equity group, they're going to know what makes sense.
Right. Yep.
Probably more than me or you do. So that's a good point.
Yeah. One other one real quick. We're doing this deal in Vegas right now. And it's interesting because a lot of people, think you've got to be local, but I mean, we've all proven that you can buy something out of the state you live in, but it's just interesting. You're in Fort Worth. We're buying a deal in Vegas, in Henderson specifically, and you've got to go get some debt on it. And that's initially a little bit more complicated because banks like to lend on a borrower that is kind of in their backyard with an asset that's kind of in their backyard or at least in their market. So we've got out-of-state borrowers. We've got an out-of-state asset, or I guess the asset is in state for them. But the fact that you can just Google it, banks in Henderson, Las Vegas, and I mean,
Is that how you found that debt?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy enough. I mean, the biggest issue with people having with an out-of-state sponsor is they can get comfortable if they know the real estate. So if I've got a deal in Chicago or a deal in Henderson or a deal in Denver, it's what are all the banks in a 10-mile radius that know that intersection, that know the story behind the market, and it's just calling them all. Just, you call 20, 10 call you back, maybe 5 show interest. And so from those 5, there's a good chance you'll get one of them to go.
Gotcha.
It's a numbers game.
You make it sound simple, and I love that because it really is simple. Even things that I am not doing effectively in my day-to-day, talking to Andy or other people, they'll explain to me how simple it is, and I love it.
I mean, the worst is they say no, and it's like, okay, on to the next one.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the deal in Henderson we're doing, I mean, we had a signed term sheet within 3 days of sending them a package.
With not a piece of property under contract, without a lease signed.
We didn't have it under contract. We didn't have a lease signed. We didn't have.
So hold on. Again, this is such a critical moment because people, they think they got to go get in contract. Oh, I got to get an attorney. Oh, I got to go get in contract. Oh, I gotta have that lease signed, or oh, it's got to be all buttoned up. But I mean, you had a signed term sheet on a deal, and you don't even know if it's yours, and you don't even know once you get it if you can get the tenant in it. But by God, we got the debt.
Yeah, I mean that one was great because it was an existing building, so there was already collateral that the bank could take if something went wrong. It's a more challenging for a ground up development because for a ground up development they want to know that you at least have the lease, even if the land is in under contracts. They want to make sure that the assumptions they're underwriting for the tenant are true.
How'd you find that deal, real quick?
So
it's a vacant restaurant on a really good corner in Henderson.
So this was one of Grant's, who's our president of brokerage's relationship with a broker out in Vegas they had done some deals with back in the past. And he brought it to them saying like, hey, here's a great spot. He knows the operator, and the operator is one of Grant's friends who's a restaurateur in Vegas. They said, okay, we want to buy it. Here's the concept that's going to go into it. And he's like, love the concept, going to pitch it to the owner. We're going to go with you over other groups. So it was relationship based. That deal was getting 5 offers a week on the market because it's such a hot corner.
Wow. Really?
So
If you're an investor of ours and you're listening, just remember that we were getting 5 offers a week,
and we got it.
And your boys got it.
Yeah,
your boys got it.
Yeah, and if you're an investor and you're not in on that deal, it's already oversold. So I'm sorry.
That one went fast.
Sold out quick. All righty, Andy. Well, I appreciate you making the trek up here. Really appreciate you coming on. Love having you up here, man. Anything else?
No, let's do more deals.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I may call you to help me raise equity.
Yeah. All right.
isn't that your job?
Yeah, I need help.
Thanks, man. We'll catch you next time on How to Invest in Commercial Real Estate.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.